Jimmy and JoAnne, Libya is back in the news today. How are you guys doing?
We're doing good.
It's a lovely array of backgrounds.
Yeah.
Pissed off about, again, the bad guys passing out nothing but bullshit about Libya. Libya had nothing to do with Lockerbie. There was an international court case at The Hague. The CIA was called in. They admitted it was their operation.
Whoa.
They took down that plane because there was an investigation done on the drug trafficking and drug business of the CIA, Mossad, MI6 worldwide, basically out of Afghanistan and the Golden Triangle. And there was so much opioid increase in the United States that the Congress and Senate had enough, and they sent investigators into Afghanistan. Those two guys were on the plane. There was also a UN, where was he from?
He was a UN commissioner for Namibia.
And he was against all the shenanigans that UN has always been doing against the Africans.
Same as
so
Barr
he was
Carlson.
A target. They invited him into a conference in Washington, D.C., provided him with a ticket and all this stuff to get on that plane. And then all the intelligence agencies contacted all the politicians and all the diplomats and everything that were scheduled on that plane, said, don't take that plane.
Really?
And then that's how all these kids that had standby tickets were able to get on that plane. It was Christmas time. Everybody was coming back. And the reason Libya was able to be blamed is because it's been a closed shop forever. They don't have any tourism. They don't have any press there. They didn't have any Khazarian mafia banks. So Libya is easy to target. Lockerbie had nothing to do
Wasn't
with
it
Libya.
strategic as well, Jimmy? I remember, Ronald Reagan we bombed Libya at some point, so there was really a reason to blame Libya to make everybody feel that Libya was a bunch of terrorists.
Libya's been sanctioned since day one, since they had their bloodless coup and threw the despot king out. From that day forward, Libya's been a target. They have been
1969.
Yeah, they've been attacked. They've had attempted coups. They've had all this stuff nonstop because Libya is one of the richest countries in the world and a very, very small population. Plus,
and it's a gateway to Africa.
Gateway to Africa, yeah. And it's worse now because of the German ground penetrating radar studies that proved that the Sirte Basin, and that about 6 miles off the coast of Libya, within that Sirte Basin, the largest oil and gas reserves in the world by 10 times more than Venezuela is sitting right offshore in Libya. And
isn't it strange that they waited 32 years to bring this about on the very day, the very anniversary? First of all, I'm sure they must have wanted to wait
bullshit.
One more year.
They just made it up. Made it up. It's they'll make up something about 9/11. They'll make up something about something else.
Here's something I've got to say. If the best our frigging intelligence agencies can do is drag this up after 32 years, kick their ass down to the curb, and let's put some 12-year-olds in there that can figure things out. Barr is a piece of shit. He has been since day one. He was the interface from Casey to Bill Clinton while they were grooming Bill Clinton to be the deep state president. He was in MENA more times than Carter's got little pills in MENA airport in Arkansas.
In all that drug running.
He's been a bad guy forever. He is nothing but a slimy, scum-sucking pig, period.
Deep state troll.
And so now then he's on his way out, finally. He should never been put in there in the first place, but he's finally out, and he drags this shit up. They're trying to take ownership again of all the confiscated assets from Libya. Remember, the Federal Reserve, European Central Bank, Bank of Japan had $500 billion of Libyan money.
Invested, supposedly.
And that was all confiscated. That was part of the condition to let Libya open up its country so the Libyan people could enjoy the world. Part of it was that they invested all their money, which Libya did not have a Khazarian mafia bank before that time, and they were required to put all their investment money into those banking institutions. That's been confiscated. Just like the Iran $150 million that was confiscated from Iran.
150 billion, wasn't it?
150 billion, pardon me. 500 billion from Libya. That 150 billion is still confiscated, and this is the money that they say Obama was going to give back to Iran. The U.S. has had control of it for 30 years. But the truth is the United States commits economic warfare on anybody they're going to destroy. That's their first action. So they completely degrade the quality of life in the country, and then they bring in all these insurrectionists and these mercenaries and everybody to start disrupting the country, just like we're seeing right here.
Listen, we've got so much more important things going on in the country right now that bring this up 32 years later against a country where the leader, Gaddafi, hated terrorism, was never a terrorist. All of this was a lie.
This crap that Barr puts out, that this was the bomb maker for Muammar Gaddafi. This is a bunch of crap.
Well, they said Megrahi was.
Yeah.
They said Megrahi was the bomb maker, but he died of cancer, so now they have to tag someone else so they can continue to hit Libya.
Huh. It's interesting to note that this article here coming out today in the AP announcing, William Barr's thing, I didn't realize, he was involved in 1991 in charging the first set of guys. I had seen a documentary that said there were Army intelligence personnel on the plane that were expected to testify in matters pertaining to Iran-Contra. We've heard quite a bit. And actually, Jimmy, you just reiterated.
That was the cover story. That was the cover story. They were to testify about the drug business.
But that's what I mean. The drug business with Iran-Contra, flying that stuff back to Mina Airport, while Bill Clinton was the president, which I believe William Barr has been covering up for the whole entire time that he's been in there. We've seen this picture of William Barr with Joe Biden, and they look like they're laughing and giggling and having a great time. This would be right around the time that all of this Iran-Contra stuff was going down. And of course, Joe Biden was in the Senate.
He was involved in it big.
Right.
Biden
what does he know about it?
Yep.
But the fact of the matter is there has not been any truth, coming out of Washington, D.C. in our lifetimes. Not any. It's all been subterfuge, it's lies, it's deception. And now we're seeing the culmination of the deep state, the Khazarian mafia, their totalitarian takeover of the world, and it is being affected right now as we sit here and talk to each other. And all these guys, all these usual players have always been involved.
They're traitors. It's all treason. This is treason against the United States.
Yeah. Against the people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's just disrupting the sense of peace and order around the entire world. I mean, how many people's lives were destroyed on this plane? People died on the ground. And I mean, they stuck the guy in jail forever or 30 years or something. How long was that guy in jail? And then he died right when he got out.
Yeah, he had cancer. They released him on a humanitarian release, but he was acquitted. He never did anything wrong.
And really, the Libyans never admitted
or whatever he was.
Libya paid out all this money, and they did all this thing. Gaddafi said, "We never did anything, but it's important for the people of Libya to have a chance to enjoy the world and all the gifts that God has provided."
Be able to travel and do things. And the United States demanded that Gaddafi give all this money to the Megrahi victims because they said Libya owed it to him. Libya didn't owe him anything.
And that has been proven over and over and over again in international courts. And now this piece of shit, this fat bastard comes out, and it's the bomb maker for the Muammar Gaddafi. How do they think they're going to get away with dredging up this shit? The only way anybody's going to believe it is if their phony news media passes it on. But he's stepping out. He's finished. As far as I'm concerned, he was finished forever.
This is some CYA for him. This is something to do with covering him.
I think it's protecting who he's there to protect. The Clintons, Bidens, everybody who he said
CIA.
He's not going to investigate. CIA. He also said that he sees no reason for a special counsel, so he's continuing to throw shade on the president's. I mean, this is the most disputed election that I'm aware of in the history of the United States. We've seen Rudy. Well, but Rudy Giuliani has presented many, many affidavits. We've seen videos of people showing windows getting covered, firsthand testimony from individuals supposed to be poll watchers who said they weren't allowed in there. And he doesn't even want to investigate. He's investigating a 32-year-old crime. Why doesn't he reopen the investigation into 9/11? Wouldn't that be more pertinent to people?
Why didn't he arrest some notable people that there's so much proof of their criminality? Why in the hell isn't Hillary's ass in jail? Why isn't she in a military court as a traitor? Her husband, there's so many
She's a
people who
war
can be on
criminal.
that list.
What about the plane that the U.S. shot down, the Iranian plane that had civilians on it? That
The
everybody
Navy.
knows about that. Why don't we investigate that?
Wasn't it the Navy that shot that down?
I think so. Well, whoever was over there in the Middle East, in the Gulf, or the Gulf, wasn't it? I can't remember exactly where it happened.
But
They just said it was an
sorry
accident.
piece of trash.
It was not an accident. It was
I
shot
agree.
down intentionally.
This scum-sucking pig come up and dredge this out now. He's doing something, Jason. You're right. He's covering his ass. He's been promised a piece of the Libyan money that's been stolen from the Libyan people. Something.
The Libyan
I don't
people
know.
are really angry.
I don't know that he's been promised anything. I just think that his role is he's been groomed his entire life to be a CIA guy. At his own confirmation hearing, he said that he was outside counsel for the CIA. That means he's their attorney. We know he was involved in pardoning Casper Weinberger and a bunch of guys in George H.W. Bush's cabinet. We know that all this stuff was going on in Mena, Arkansas, cocaine flying in there, everything that happened against the will of the American people and against the will of Congress with Iran-Contra and supplying weapons over there. If President Trump were to start unraveling that coil, all the players would be implicated. So I think what we're seeing now, I don't know how Trump could have not known this. And frankly, no excuses can be made. If he is unable to overcome this election issue, he's screwed it up and he's left us all in the lurch. He should have never hired Barr.
He had to know who Barr was. You don't hire an ex-CIA operative to be the head of the DOJ.
He hadn't made a good selection yet. And in our show, we're gonna talk about a guy that you had a great interview with, that was in a long meeting in the White House, and he says every person around Trump is an absolute traitor. Every one of them. Trump doesn't have anybody around him that's worth a shit. And, we've been saying this forever. He's never made a good selection. I don't think he's had the opportunity. I don't think he ever has been in power. I think he's been compromised since day one. I think they either threatened his family. He and his whole family got part A of the 2-part kill shot, as was told us by Chip Tatum. And therefore, all the things he's done has been at the direction of the Khazarian mafia, the deep state, the bad guys. Because nobody could make that bunch of selections. Who would step into office and reappoint all those garbage people that Obama had in office? No president's ever done that except Trump. So
I don't have an explanation.
He doesn't deserve to be president.
He put Bolton in there, the warmonger.
Really?
Bolton is just beyond the pale.
I really dislike John Bolton. I agree with you, he's beyond the pale. He was part of the Project for a New American Century, which I believe was behind 9/11. But some people said that, Trump put him there to be kind of the pit bull on a leash to scare Iran or something like that.
What
Perhaps
did he do?
He did nothing. He did bad things. I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah.
When you come into a new job, if you're very skilled at something, and you come into a new job, there's a little times, particularly something as complicated as being the president of the United States. I could understand that it takes a little time to get up to speed. But this appointment of William Barr and leaving him there for so long when nothing has been done, the first day after the election when these questions came up, if Barr was resisting, I personally would have fired him and appointed Rudy Giuliani to be the interim attorney general, the special counsel, whatever it is. But we have lost so many precious days in this remaining time to do something. I'm really losing confidence.
Go back to Jeff Sessions. That garbage piece of traitor's ass.
Why did he leave him in there so long?
Turned his back on Trump first day, first chance. I'm going to have to recuse myself. That's when he should have been replaced. Okay, your ass is gone. And he's always been a deep stater. The blacks hate him because he's the biggest racist that ever drew a breath. Proven. He openly went against blacks in his own state forever. He's a bad guy. They hated him. Yet he was put in there and then left in there and then left in there and then left in there. And he did nothing. The real job of the attorney general is to protect the president. That's what his first function is. And that piece of garbage
But is it to protect the president or is it to be the top law enforcement officer.
The office, to protect the office of president is correct. But Jeff Sessions was a traitor from day one, and he was left in there forever. His sell by date had been passed for years before his ass was thrown out, and then he puts in somebody worse.
Yeah, far worse, more dangerous.
Yeah, exactly.
It really, you've got to look at the guy.
The swamp has not been cleaned.
No.
Trump admitted some time ago that he had no control over the foreign policy of the United States. He admitted that. So, he's admitted a lot of things. He has been out of control because somebody else has control. And we don't know we do know. We do know who's behind the curtain now. And we've seen all of them. And they're exposing themselves, and we're seeing all this stuff. What came out this week, Jason, that we found out that all of these directives about the lockdown, the mask, and all that stuff came out of the Trump White House. All of them. All the disbursement of funds to all the governors came from the Trump White House. I don't think Trump knew anything about it. Because if you remember, when Pompeo was up there and he said, well, this is really just an exercise, and Trump said, then we should have known about it. You should have told us.
Right.
So I don't think he's had any idea what's happened in his name. And these disclosures, this release of real critical information that has been so detrimental to this fight against this farce that they're trying to call an election, that was leaked out by Trump's number one attorney.
Who got fired, I think. Didn't they fire him?
I don't know. He was still there yesterday.
Some of those tweets from Patrick Byrne were talking about exactly that. And I mean, again, it's staggering. I think people are shocked. We're going to be getting into this when we begin our sponsor exclusive show on Patreon and Subscribestar. I think a lot of people know every Monday night we're doing a show focused on Libya, and people can watch it on patreon.com/James and JoAnne Moriarty or Patreon and subscribestar.com/crowdsource the truth. I have just resolved the issue with Discord. So viewers who sponsor Crowdsource the Truth at $5 a month or more can join us in the live chat on Discord. But what I really want people to know about is if they sponsor Jimmy and JoAnne on patreon.com/James and JoAnne Moriarty, they can purchase the DVD, Escape from Al-Qaeda. They get free shipping, so it's a $5 savings. The disc is only $15, and it contains a ton of information that Jimmy and JoAnne compiled when they were in Libya. This is their firsthand information, and we're going to be, over the next couple of weeks, working to get some experts on this Pan Am 103 Lockerbie incident, because I think it is very important. This press conference today with William Barr, I have a feeling a lot of people who saw it may not realize the significance of it. So I think this is a topic we're going to focus on because it's coming at a very strange time, and I agree with everything that you've both said about it.
Well, we always cover Libya primarily, but we're forced into bringing forward some contemporary information about other things that we may have access to that the other people don't. But the thing that is so shocking to us, Jason, is what's going on in the world in our face all the time is so far beyond the pale. Like, we've got one of the things we're going to cover. It's just going to be a real short deal. But one of the ministers of health of a very well-known country is outlawing sexual activities with more than 3 people in them.
I saw that article, and I found out that was actually a satire. What was that woman's name? She's the Belgium. I had it a minute ago.
She was the person that Jabba the Hutt was that was a reference point.
Right. Well, there was an article that somebody posted on Twitter that said Belgian Health Minister Maggie de Block has banned non-essential sexual interactions of more than 3 people. And I think the joke was that, first of all, look, people should love themselves and be proud of their bodies and who they are and all that. But if you're going to be the health minister, this is a serious health risk. This woman is morbidly obese. Now, I found out that she was fired as health minister back in September. So I'm not sure if that article was poking fun at her, but it was certainly funny and interesting.
She doesn't project real
She
health.
was fired right after she put out that directive.
Maybe.
A lot of people in Belgium said, "We're not giving that up."
Right.
No.
Exactly.
It's the only fun we have in Belgium, you know.
Right. That's why they have all that strong beer. You got to.
Yeah.
Maybe she's having a little too much of it. But, in our last few minutes before we go over to the sponsor exclusive segment, do we want to just run over some of the high points of what we're going to discuss? Of course, Lockerbie and Pan Am Flight 103.
We're going to discuss what Turkey is doing in Libya. Turkey continues to bring their troops in to Libya illegally and weapons, and Turkey is openly now planning to take over the entire country. It'll be a war against the Libyan National Army, who represent the Libyan people, and the Turks. And Erdogan's desire to recreate the Ottoman Empire that nobody wants but him. They don't care about U.S. sanctions. They said it doesn't bother them at all. They're going to continue doing what they want to do. They can't. Nothing happens in Libya without them, without their approval. So they act like they're in charge now. They only work with the GNA. There's nobody else who works with them. The GNA is the Government of National Accord. We're going to talk about that. That's the one that the UN imposed on Libya without an election. It was supposed to be only a 2-year government. It's been in there since 2015.
That's the equivalent of the Biden.
Yeah, it's
Right.
exactly the equivalent
They just
of the
stick them in
Biden.
there.
They just sent Turkey $25 billion and put them in charge of all the passports and all the. They're going to be in charge of who can bring goods into Libya and who can sell them and stuff. GNA
Now, this money
just
was
did that.
confiscated from the Libyan people, put in the hands of a non-elected government. The people in Libya don't have food. They don't have drugs. Their hospitals have been destroyed. They don't have drinking water. Electricity, power plants all over have been blown up, not rebuilt. Yet they've got $25 billion to send to an invader that's been further destroying their country.
Terrible.
It's criminal. And the UN is in there watching this.
Yeah. Everybody
Well,
look
they're
at Libya and look at
enabling
what's
it.
going on in the United States.
Well, it's pretty interesting that they brought back, and we'll talk about this on our show. They brought back a UN. What do they call it? He's targeted person. He's a terrorist. He's a war criminal. They know him. He's on the UN list. The GNA brought him back and put him in charge of the oil that he is selling on the black market.
Wow.
And the UN, this is the UN sanctioned government, and it's the UN targeted guy. So in the same paragraph, they zero themselves out. How blatant is that?
That's the thing. They're naked. They just do whatever they
don't
want.
care.
They tell you, oh, that's not happening. William Barr said there's no need for a special counsel to investigate the election or Hunter Biden. It's like, wait a minute. You've had a laptop filled with text messages that another decorated U.S. Navy veteran says indicate that Hunter Biden was doing illicit business with the Chinese that his father was aware of and involved in, and you don't even think that's worth investigating? How does that work?
No, but it's worth investigating a 32-year-old crime that you just all magically found.
Pull out of your ass.
Found something about Libya.
It's crazy. We are really living in a lawless, scary, dangerous time. And I think people are rightly, deeply concerned. We've got just about a minute until we make the transition over to the sponsor exclusive show. And we've got a lot of details we're going to share about what Turkey is doing. Greece is not very happy. Their neighbors there in the Mediterranean. This is a deteriorating situation, both in Libya and the United States. I had hoped we would see something strong from the president today, but I'm not aware of anything. No.
I haven't seen anything.
I don't think he has any help. I think he's a singleton out there.
Yeah. Well, all right, we'll be back in just 5 minutes, and we're looking forward to seeing everybody there. We've got Discord integrated now, so people will be able to join us in the live chat during the sponsor exclusive segment. I want to thank everybody who's going to watch us on Patreon and Subscribestar for Crowdsource the Truth, and remind people to sponsor Jimmy and JoAnne by going to patreon.com/James and JoAnne Moriarty. Beautiful background there. Those things don't make themselves. We'll see everybody over there on Patreon and Subscribestar in just